We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC in Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor.
Here are 3 great Chevrolet offers from Glenn Smith in Opelika. Check out the powerful full-size and fully loaded Chevrolet Silverado High Country, discounted up to $13,000 off. Or the roomy midsize 3-row SUV, the Chevy Traverse, discounted up to $8,000 off. And the perfect size Chevy Equinox, up to $7,500 off. No payments until summertime. Over 300 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. Get ready to smile.
Good evening, everyone, and you're now watching another edition of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Thrift Barringer here with my partner in crime, Richie Rich Holdridge, whose favorite TV actor, kid TV actor, was the guy that played Richie Rich. I don't know what his name was. One of Richard's favorite shows. Richard, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be back. I was gone, but we kept the show going. I mean, I just want to thank, the people that filled in for me while I was gone. And I watched the show that you did with Tyler Redmond last week at the Beck Center. Awesome job with Rick Beach, Chris Gates, Noah Shelton. I mean, we've got a great team that, covers down, because we continue grinding. But, unfortunately, my full-time job kind of keeps me away sometimes. But I'm just excited to get back into the fold of things and talk sports.
Yeah, he was excited for sure. And did a great job in that. I didn't think it was going to be as competitive as it was, and it ended up being a slugfest in Northside Calvary on Friday. Saturday, we had a fun time, Richard, as CVCC baseball and softball played games. The baseball team lost both of them, so did the softball, but we love being there. Thank you to Dean Taylor and Ashley Landy, Ben Hicks, Champ Foster, these guys and women allowed us to be a part of CVCC athletics, and this is just the first year of many years. Richard, you know this with our long partnership. I want to say thank you to everyone out here that is a supporter of ours, and we are presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. What do they need to do when they walk in the door, Richard?
Get ready to smile.
And we appreciate Jerry Porter and everyone at Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for believing in what we do. So thank you so much. If you want to be a presenting sponsor, all you got to do is contact me or Richard Holdridge. Also, got a jam-packed week for you. We got a jam-packed show. So we'll talk about the week here in just a moment. I am going to talk about the guest list coming up here in the next couple of minutes. We got play-by-play announcer and executive Tom Callahan from the Columbus River Dragons. We got to get an update. They're about to play their rival, who beat them in the playoffs last year in a huge series to go to the championship. Can't wait to talk to Tom. After Tom Callahan, we got the hottest baseball team in America at one point. Did have lost 2 of 3 from Auburn, but then got back on right track. And KJ Kehoe will join us, so I'm looking forward to that, Richard.
Looking forward to it too, Thrift, and I'm just excited to talk to Coach Kehoe. And really, the Central Red Devils, they're going into the playoffs. They play Prattville on Friday. It's a 3-game series, trying to get back to the championship. And we also have some great baseball coaches coming up, also some future episodes. But I'm excited about it, Thrift.
Yeah, sorry. I just had music start playing in my ears Because I'm live in the Sports Vision's radio room, 99.3 radio.
I'll tell you what, Thrift, you've been on the air since 4 today. You had Sports Visions, you had Let's Talk with Greg and Friends, and now we're doing the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
Yeah, I just got a few texts, especially from my girlfriend saying, "You're crazy. What are you doing?" But hey, I love it. I love what I do. I have to admit. After AJ Kehoe, we're going to have a interview that just happened earlier today, but we'll be playing it. Rick Beach talked with Tony Dimitri. And we're hitting all the schools that are hosting playoff games this upcoming season. So we got Central, who's hosting a playoff game this week. We're talking with AJ at 8. Rick Beach talked with Tony Dimitri. They host a playoff game tomorrow. And then Coach Shad Mathis from Columbus High, he also hosts a playoff game. The River Dragons host a playoff game this weekend. And then we're going to have Tim Fanning and Steve Smith, Calvary and Glenwood coaches, because we're broadcasting their games on Thursday and Friday on Wednesday's show. And speaking of which, we'll go through this week so we can go ahead and get our next guest on, Richard. First off, today, of course, the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Tomorrow, Brookstone Calvary. That's both of their teams. Thank you, Richard. Richard is, listen, man, MVP. I sent him that, and he put that up in about 2 minutes. He had to make it into a PDF, which takes some time, and he's already got it up there. So great job. Producer extraordinaire, Richard Holdridge, everyone. Brookstone Calvary, number 1 Brookstone, number 1 Calvary, number 1 in GIAA, number 1 in GAPS in their regular season against each other. Richard, you're going to be there for that. I know you're looking forward to it. The Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show again on Wednesday. We'll talk a little NFL draft, drop our final regular season ratings for high school baseball. We won't have another one until the end of the playoffs, so you want to tune in for that on Wednesday. Later on tonight, we'll hit on some NBA playoff predictions as well. We know that's underway. Thursday, CVCC softball, and then Glenwood quarterfinals doubleheader. Me and Richard will be there for that one. We'll both be there for Friday's game, Calvary hosts quarterfinals. And then on Saturday, we have CVCC baseball. And guess what? We do it all over again next week. Richard, incredible week of broadcasting for Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
No question about it. I'm looking forward to the regular season for high school baseball wrapping up, starting the playoffs. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to broadcast any of the GHSA games because of the fee that you would have to pay to the GHSA. But we wish the best of luck to all the high schools in the Chattahoochee Valley that are hosting playoff games. And we got quite a few. Columbus, Harris County, Shaw, Central. I mean, they're all hosting, and we wish them the best of luck. We'll try to get score updates as well. Some of the games are going on tomorrow. I'll try to get score updates during the Brookstone Calvary game tomorrow.
Shaw, like you mentioned, they're hosting. Jordan's on the road. Hardaway's on the road, but they made the playoffs, man. So that's another close to 10 teams in this area. They're making the playoffs in Central, Glenwood, Pacelli, Brookstone, Calvary. All 5 of those have chances to win it all. So we could have multiple state champions as well. Let's throw that away, Richard. Let's get him on, our next guest. I mean, it just takes our show from being a bunch of goobers talking to now the professional level. It is the play-by-play announcer and good friend, Tom Callahan. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on your one off day of the week.
We are all now professional goobers.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Tom. And thank you so much again for joining us. Great weekend last weekend for the River Dragons. Let's talk about that game on Friday. The turnout was phenomenal. How's the playoffs been so far for the River Dragons?
Well, pretty good for the River Dragons, starting from a standpoint of they came out with a 2-0 sweep, which is fantastic. So the best of 3 series, I know a lot of fans were asking about this, how exactly that works. The long and short of it is that the best of 3 works like this. You start on the road, and then the River Dragons, who have home ice in the playoffs, get games 2 and 3 at home. So that way, if there is a third and deciding game, you get to play it in your own building. So that's the exciting part for the River Dragons. Didn't need that third game against Mississippi. In 2 games, scored 15 goals. Took care of Mississippi. It was 8-0 was the final on Saturday nights, and did not need the extra game. But, Columbus, Mississippi's a different caliber of team. Now it's on to play Carolina, which took 3 games and won game 3 in overtime to get past Port Huron. This is the real rivalry for Columbus. And then if Columbus beats Carolina, they move on to play for the championship. So it's pretty exciting right now, the way things are going. The team is playing very well. And the scoring depth we've been talking about all season long has shown up once again. You look at the leaders for this team right now, just in points and goals. You wouldn't expect Alex Storjahan maybe to be the guy out in front, but he has 6 points. He's tied with Austin Doe. Josh Petrantonio, the captain, has 4 assists so far. So those guys are doing well. But of course, the Justin McDonalds and Ryan Hunters and Kyle Moores of the world are contributing too. So firing on all cylinders.
All right, Tom. Well, Friday, you got to go up to Carolina. The playoff format is the 1-2 playoff format for the first 2 rounds. It's a best of 5 if we get to the Commissioner's Cup final. But I want to talk about how important it was for the Columbus River Dragons to get home ice, because this has really bit them the last couple of years, not having home ice, because they were able to win game 1 and they lost games 2 and 3 to Watertown 2 years ago, to Carolina last year. In fact, Carolina lost game 1 to Port Huron on the road. And then they had a very long week. They had an overtime win over Port Huron on yesterday. Do you think that with the home ice, and really with Carolina just having that short turnaround, how much does that favor Columbus, and how important is to try to steal that road victory Friday before games 2 and games 3 are at the Civic Center?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Then you have 2 shots added on your home ice. Before we get into all of that, I do want to mention, though, this year the final is going to be best of 3. The FPHL is kind of strange in that you have to decide ahead of time. Do you want a best of 3 or best of 5 final? And between the River Dragons and the other teams that could potentially be involved at the start of the playoffs, it was agreed to go best of 3 because of building availability issues. And even for us here in Columbus, once we get into graduation season, all of a sudden, the ice is covered and, people are getting their diplomas. So it would be a best of 3 to get to the final as well. But to go back to what you're saying, winning that game on the road Friday night is massive. And the thing that's super encouraging for me, I think, as I look at it for the River Dragons, they started to beat Carolina in their building and started to win in a more convincing fashion. Now, down the stretch, neither one of these teams was icing their full lineup. So that's also one of those things that makes you look at it and go, it's tough to judge everything. Justin McDonald did not play until the final game of the regular season just to get himself back in, but he took 4 games off before that. Still finished league MVP, scoring title, all that. But it's different now that you have the full lineup and the lineup is rolling and you're getting goals right now from all 3 lines. The power play is producing. It's a different beast. It's got a different feeling to it right now for Columbus. And I'm sure for Carolina, they have their top scorer back in Gus Ford, who missed significant time this year. That's a nice thing for them. They actually made a goalie switch last series. Their goaltender all the way throughout the year, who have been very good and have been the guy who kind of saved their bacon, was Mario Cavallari. He struggled down the stretch to the point where there were whispers he might not start game 1. Well, he did start game 1. He lost. They made the goaltending switch. So now they're going with a guy named Cody Karpinski. So Karpinski won the last 2. But if you can get to Karpinski, I think now the confidence isn't there anymore in Cavallari. So if they have to go back to him, he absolutely would have to stand on his head to kind of get it back in Carolina's heads that, he could be the guy once more. But it's an interesting dynamic. It really is. There's a whole lot of things going on heading into the series.
When you talk about home ice and how big of an advantage that has, you've been to and seen everyone that's played in every town in the FPHL. Does Columbus have the most raucous fan base compared to the northern cities or the other places you've been? Do you put them up there as number 1? And does that make a huge difference in trying to win a series?
Number 1, it absolutely makes a difference. You go into a building where it can get loud, and I will say Carolina can get loud. Danbury can get loud. Binghamton can get loud. Those places can be just, absolutely crazy energetic.
Right.
And it's an awful lot of fun to see those buildings when they're full. And I think Columbus, when Columbus is close to full, we had almost 5,000 fans in the building for game 2. And it was wild. It was so loud in there, especially shenanigans start a little bit, and then Columbus puts Mississippi in their place. Even with the headset on, like, it was so loud. It was, and the guys love it. They absolutely love the energy, the enthusiasm. And yes, home ice matters. I mean, not only we talk about the River Dragons last year, 1 game, 1 here, lost both in Carolina.
Right.
Carolina in the final, which last year did go best of 5, won the first 2 at home, lost the last 3 at Danbury. So yeah, home ice is huge. To be able to come back and have that crowd behind you, sleep in your own bed, especially with the travel in this league, massive advantage. Huge.
Tom, I feel the way that the River Dragons played against the Mississippi Seawolves in that first round, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. I mean, you've got goal scoring from Austin Doe and Alex Storjahan. Your veterans are stepping up when it matters the most. Of course, Justin McDonald, the league's MVP, having a fantastic year, not only in the regular season, but he already has 3 goals in the postseason. So he is just picking up where he left off. I mean, with the way that the team is playing, what are some things that are a concern of having to play Carolina, a team that actually has won a couple of games in the regular season against Columbus? They play Columbus very tough.
They did. They're one of the few teams that did beat us in the regular season. I think one of the big things for Columbus is going to be staying out of the box, not taking penalties. And the River Dragons did a good job of that against Mississippi. Only shorthanded 4 times. That's going to be key. Carolina was only shorthanded 6. These are actually the 2 least. It's funny. They're the 2 least penalized teams in the league, Columbus and Carolina, until they play each other.
Right.
And then they just get angry. It's pretty neat to see that Columbus was able to, hold its discipline when Mississippi was clearly trying to make them lose that discipline. And that's the biggest thing for me. The penalty kill has been awesome all year, and I have no concern with it now. I'm pretty enthusiastic about where that penalty kill is. They were number 1 to start and end the season, so that still looks good. But to me, it's going to come down to discipline. And what Coach B Sharp would say is doing all those little things and not cheating the game. Meaning, if you're supposed to stop I'll say at the hash marks on a breakout in the defensive zone, don't stop 5 feet up the wall at the top of the circle. Stop at the hash marks and stop. Don't just cruise on through and go by. It's the discipline to do all those little things, to make the right pass at the right time, to wait for those things to open up. If Columbus can do that, it's funny. I can't remember. It might have actually been you guys who asked me last time I was on, hey, Tom, who can beat the River Dragons in the playoffs? My response is the River Dragons. They're the only team that can beat the River Dragons in the playoffs. And that's Columbus can't beat itself. That is my number 1 concern.
When I'm looking, and I know I'm going all the way back in the FPHL since the River Dragons have been in this league. Look in the last 3 or 4 seasons, the River Dragons had more points than anybody in the last 4 seasons. And what does that say about how great this team has been compared to some really good teams in years past? You made mention about Danbury, who's won championships. Do you put this team, if it can finish out the run, and I know I'm asking a loaded question, but if it can finish out the run the way it has, do you put this as maybe one of the greatest, not just River Dragons and Columbus hockey teams of all time, but in the history of the FPHL?
I think so. It was the second best regular season in FPHL history this year, just behind Carolina when they won the cup, with a lot of the current players who are here in Columbus now, 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
And so second best season in FPHL history, the best as far as just overall season in Columbus hockey history in regular season. And now to cap that off with a championship, there haven't been a whole lot of those in Columbus. Yes, the Cottonmouths did have a couple, and they had them in a couple different leagues. They had them in the Central Hockey League. They won one in the SPHL as well, actually 2 in the SPHL. To be able to bring another championship to Columbus this time in the FPHL, this is already one of the best hockey teams Columbus has ever seen at any level. That might be a capstone event to be able to lift the trophy, especially to be able to do it here on home ice would be huge.
All right, Tom, let's talk about the attendance in the FPHL. I was looking at the overall attendance in Binghamton, the Black Bears up there in New York. I know how big hockey is up in the north. I was up in New York a couple of weeks ago. Binghamton was maybe about an hour from where I stayed. I know when you get outside of New York City and you're in a rural area, New York State, I mean, you know about these small towns in New York. I mean, Watertown, Binghamton, they love their hockey. Binghamton had the most fans attended their games this year. Columbus was number 2. If we get into a situation where Binghamton is the team, I still think they got to get by either Motor City or Danbury. I think right now it could be, I don't know, Motor City looks pretty good too. But do you think that the travel up there in that first game and just that atmosphere of being in a big stadium where they have all those fans, because you don't have that at Watertown. Watertown only drew like 500 fans. I mean, how big of an effect that's going to be if you have to play a Binghamton team that you haven't really faced that much in the regular season?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say this, but I expect Binghamton's going to beat Motor City. Not that Motor City could win. They could, but I just don't think they're going to. So I think Binghamton wins that series. I think Columbus, if they make it to the final, ends up facing the Black Bears. Binghamton's arena is smaller than Columbus's. It's a building that, fortunately for them, when the Ottawa Senators American Hockey League team was in there, they renovated everything. It's a beautiful building, nice seats, great lighting, all kinds of just fantastic upgrades, and then they left it. So they have a really, really nice setup at home. And I like going into that building. I loved it when I was going in there 25 years ago in the old United Hockey League. But man, it's really stood the test of time, and especially with the upgrades. That said, yes, I think Binghamton is a hockey city. They've had hockey there for a long time, going all the way back to the 70s with the old Broome Dusters, which they were actually Broome County is in the movie Slapshot. So when they talk about Broome County, that's actually Binghamton they're talking about. So yeah, it's been running through their blood for generations up there. That is a hardcore hockey town. And I think it would be a tremendous matchup against the River Dragons. Here's the other thing. It's one of the few unknown matchups. We saw Motor City this year. We would know a little bit at least. We know nothing about Binghamton. Haven't seen them. Can only really watch video. Haven't played a game against them in the regular season. So the first time we could potentially meet would be in the Commissioner's Cup final. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Wild.
Do you think that has to, because of, place availability is why it's so hard for everyone to play everybody a certain amount of times? Is that why they try to keep it where it's not as much travel? And also when the arenas are available, why is the fact that they have never even seen that team?
Well, so this year we saw them last year, but this year we didn't.
I mean this year, yeah.
This year, part of what played into that unbalanced schedule was the fact that 2 expansion teams came in the South. You had the Blue Ridge Bobcats in Virginia, and then you had the Baton Rouge Zydeco in Louisiana. Because they have more of a southern footprint, you can expect the Carolinas and Columbuses of the world, we're going to play them more.
Yeah.
So that was what happened. That's why actually Motor City, I'll just put it in air quotes, got traded to the other division at the beginning of the year for Blue Ridge, because Blue Ridge was in that southern footprint. So Port Huron kind of stayed an outlier. They remained in the division. Going forward, now there's a team coming into Athens, Georgia. They're talking about a few other cities as well. I know they've discussed Beaumont, Texas. They've discussed Dothan, Alabama. Nice. The league is really growing in the South. And there's other places too, but those are the ones that come to mind in the South. And so if the league continues to expand that footprint down here, it's going to be an interesting challenge for them to figure out how to divide it up geographically. We might get to a point where you don't play out of your conference or your division most of the year because there's enough teams down here to support the variety of the schedule. It might come to that.
Well, I'm hoping. And if it's going to keep growing in the South and bring back the Atlanta Thrashers or any team in Atlanta.
That would be awesome.
If you're gonna bring back NHL. Speaking of which, I got to transition real quickly, Tom. Then we'll go back to about how people can get tickets, what time are the games this weekend. We don't ever talk National Hockey League on this program until Tom Callahan is on here. So, without further ado, who do you have winning the AHL? Is it? I'm sorry, I'm literally looking at the standings. The only reason I can even say this: the Dallas Stars and the Panthers. I know they're both in first place. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Richard probably could, but who would be your favorites to win it if you had to pick, Tom?
So I will say that Florida had a really good regular season. The Panthers are really good this year. There's a couple other teams coming in. Watch out for the Rangers, as much as that pains me to say. I think Carolina was a slim favorite coming in the East, even though Florida ended up catching and passing Boston at the end, and they finished number 1. They ended up with the Tampa Bay Lightning. But, man, that's – so out of the East is going to be difficult, but I think it's going to be Florida, New York, or Carolina. I'd love to see Florida get out of there. Sometimes I like to pick my matchup based on the worst media markets possible, and I think that would be fun if the Florida Panthers are in the final again. I look at the West, and your matchups are Dallas, Vegas, Winnipeg, Colorado, Vancouver, Nashville, and Edmonton and the Kings. I don't think either Edmonton or the Kings have enough to make it all the way through. Vancouver's a question mark for me. They're a maybe, depending on if their goaltender Thatcher Demko's healthy and also if they can keep up the goal-scoring pace. They've been up and down this season, but they did well enough during the regular season. They're a total surprise team, but they did well enough. They finished high enough. They were in without a problem. They could go either way. The Avalanche, Colorado is similarly streaky. They're up against the Winnipeg Jets team right now. They had a crazy game 1 last night. It was 7-6 Winnipeg. I don't think we're going to see another one of those in the series, but I guess you never know. Both teams can score goals. Both teams can fly. Apparently, they didn't want to play defense. So that's going to be way more entertaining than I thought. Dallas is good. Dallas is deep. Watch out for Vegas because they just got Mark Stone back off long-term IR. If he's actually healthy and in game shape, that instantly makes them better than that wild card spot, and they're the defending champs, so they have that on their side. I really think you could see the winner of Dallas Vegas end up going all the way to the Cup final.
And that is NHL Talk presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, only with Tom Callahan. Richard.
Tom, one more final question. What time are the games this weekend? Do they have any promotional deals? And how can fans get tickets?
Okay, great question on the times. So first of all, Friday night on the road, 7:35. Saturday night at home, 7:35. Sunday, if necessary, here's your curveball, 6:05. So normally we play 4 o'clock on Sundays. No, 6:05 p.m. if we go to a game 3. Hopefully we don't. Be nice to have Sunday off. But yeah, so 7:35, 6:05. Tickets, Ticketmaster.com or the Civic Center box office. No discounts in the playoffs. You would have had to buy the 7-game package ahead of time. That's where you could have got your discounted playoff tickets there. But yeah, they're on sale right now. And you can, if you're sitting at home on your laptop or on your mobile device, you can go to Ticketmaster and pick up some seats right now. And the nice thing is, our seats, I thought this was interesting. Our seats go up $1 a round, but you can still get in the building, say, for round 2 here for $13. I looked at Port Huron just out of curiosity. Their tickets start at $15.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're in the playoffs, and, with the dollar increase, we're still, a couple bucks behind Port Huron just to get in the building regular season. That wasn't even their playoff price. So it's a great deal. It really is. It's fantastic. And we look forward to having people down at the Civic Center on Saturday night.
Yeah. Nobody should can be complaining about ticket prices. Everyone has easy access. It's an awesome time. It's an incredible atmosphere. If you've never been, please go experience it. And it's better now because it's against a rival. It's going to be hostile. It's going to have a lot of people in it. It's going to be fun. And the main thing is there's going to be fights. So everyone is win, 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 win. Tom, love you, man. Appreciate you so much. Look forward to, and also, by the way, one more time, where can everyone watch the game if they're not able to get out of the house? They want to watch game 1. No one's traveling to Carolina. At least I don't think so. I know the hardcore fans are, but if you can't, how can they watch the games?
So all of our road playoff games are televised this year on Christian Television Network, Channel 16, WYBU. They are on 5 different cable systems
Nice.
around the Chattahoochee Valley. So if you can't find CTN, it is out there somewhere. But even if you don't have the good old rabbit ears, you can watch us on YouTube as well. Our YouTube channel is at Columbus River Dragons. And of course, our radio broadcasts, which are not only online, but also terrestrial radio. Remember that? 106.9 really rocks.
Yeah, 106.9 really rocks. So love that station. You can hear me on it sometimes when I'm at a car dealership, but everybody loves hearing Tom. Thank you so much for joining us, man, and we look forward to seeing you this weekend for hopefully a good 2-game sweep over Carolina.
Oh, I'd love it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That is Tom Callahan,
All right.
the voice of the Columbus River Dragons. All right, we're going to take a break, Richard. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back from break, guess what? We're going to be having on the hottest team in America, one of the best baseball coaches around. Love having a conversation with them. It's Central's coach, AJ Kehoe, coming up next right here on the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live show. But first, Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC's got something to tell you.
You're watching right now the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Glenn Smith, GMC, and Opelika invite you to discover extraordinary deals like this powerful all-new GMC Sierra 1500 Pro, now up to $12,500 off. Purchase the roomy GMC Terrain SLT, discounted up to $8,750 off. And the GMC Acadia with 3-row seating, discounted up to $6,000 off. Enjoy no payments till summertime at Glenn Smith GMC. Over 300 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everyone. Thrift Barringer here, Richard Holdridge. And do we have him on? Is he ready? Okay, good. Let's go ahead and bring him on. I knew he was going to be on time. This is the coach, man. This is a professional of all professionals. It's the hottest baseball coach in high school in America. It is Coach AJ Kehoe of Central. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach, on this wonderful Monday.
Man, thank you, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, man, and appreciate everything you guys do for our sport.
No doubt about it, Coach. We were able and lucky to get 3 or 4 of your games this year, and you won every game, so hopefully that was a good luck charm, Coach. But let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty. I want to spend the first part of this interview, Coach, talking about you. We did get a little bit of that in high school baseball media days, but that thing goes by so fast. We got so many teams. We really didn't get to dive into it as much. Coach, let's talk about your background, where you played, where you grew up, and talk about what led you into coaching.
Well, I grew up
story, basically.
Yeah. Hey, the short version is I grew up in Columbia, Maryland, which is right in between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland. And I was fortunate enough to play baseball at Auburn Montgomery, which was an NAIA school at the time in Montgomery, Alabama. And really, I always felt led to coach or to get into coaching and education in general. Because of how much my coaches meant to me, probably. And it just seemed like the right choice, after graduating. I played a couple of years of independent ball and I just started working as a coach. My first job was at Glenwood School in Phoenix City.
Wow. By the way, I'm an alumni of Glenwood, and I heard it from your name, Coach, from one of my, and I think a mutual friend of ours, Carson Bowers, who is, I grew up with him. We graduated together. That's literally my best friend. And I knew how great of a coach you were, but you finally got an opportunity to take over Central. Now, you were a longtime assistant with Bobby Howard at Columbus, won many championships there. But when you got the job to take over Central, was this the job you've been waiting on? Because I know you've had other opportunities, but why did you wait for this job specifically?
Well, just to make a small correction, Bobby actually hired me at Central.
Gotcha. So you weren't at Columbus.
I was not at Columbus.
Gotcha.
No. I was actually at Beauregard High School, and Bobby hired me on when he got the head job at Central. So I was very blessed to work for Bobby for 2 years. In fact, at my Hall of Fame dinner, our banquet speech, he was certainly one of the people that I named that was so influential in my coaching career, and just still talk to him to this day. He's unbelievable. He's done so much for me. and just baseball in general in this entire community.
Coach, your coaching staff has been phenomenal. I had the privilege of getting to know one of your assistant coaches, Coach Johnny Eaton, who coached the Chattahoochee Monsters last year. I had the privilege of calling their games last year. What are some of the other coaches besides Coach Eaton that is on your staff, and what is their background and experience, and how long have you been working with Coach Eaton and the other members of your coaching staff?
It was really strange. Well, first of all, Bart Butler and Eric Skinner were both part of the staff. They were both junior high coaches when Coach Howard was there. Once I got the job, I actually coached Eric at Glenwood. Knew of his abilities and knew him. Got to know Bart the 2 years under Coach Howard, and that was an easy decision for me. Both of them have just a plethora of knowledge, are very hardworking, have great rapport with the kids, and both of them do such a great job with the infielders. It was a no-brainer for me. My oldest son, Jay, was actually playing junior college baseball at Wallace-Dothan with Johnny's younger brother. And I met Johnny's dad at the time. And Johnny's dad told me that Johnny was looking for a coaching position. So that's how I was able to meet Johnny. Johnny was a great player, just a fantastic human being. He's from Mobile, but, he's been with us, I guess, I don't know, it's probably been 4 years now. Johnny's been with us. So, man, it's just a great staff. As well as I do, man. It takes everybody. It takes surrounding yourself with great people, and I'm very blessed in the fact that I'm able to work with those guys, man, on a daily basis. They provide me with all types of information. They challenge me on a daily basis. They do what's needed program-wise to make our kids better. But probably more important, like I said, they got great rapport with our players, and they're well respected by all our guys. And there's just a lot of love, man, a lot of love there for them and for our players.
Well, Coach, when you take over a position like Central, and you have to have this mental fortitude because there's a lot of pressure. You talk about the football program and the history behind that, and the fan base is ravaged. I mean, they love every single sport because of how many alumni have come from there. What has that been like? I know that you were perfect for this job. Not everyone is, but talk about what it's like to be at a place like Central when you have so many people supporting your guys.
Man, it's awesome. It's fun. We have great administration. Our principal is amazing. Our athletic director is fantastic. And we just have a ton of support, and I think as a coach, especially when I was young, the only thing you ever really wanted was a supportive administration that was going to provide you with the things that you needed to be successful. And that's one thing I always knew about Central. They were going to give us the things we needed to develop our players, within reason, obviously, and just be there, to support us. And it's fun. It makes things fun. If you're a competitor, these are the type of environments and type of places you want to be, where people expectations are extremely high.
Right.
But you embrace it and you just learn to love it,
Coach, this area has been very competitive with Auburn, Opelika, Smith Station, all these teams. There was really no margin for error, but you had a fantastic regular season. You did win the region. You did only take 1 out of 3. Auburn won it up there in Auburn. I mean, so you were going into that series against Smith Station that you had to win in order to actually win the region. But with all the success in the regular season, you're carrying that momentum into the playoffs. You're playing Prattville in the first round this Friday. Just what does it mean just to continue just to claw your way and play just competitive teams in the regular season? When you got to region play, you were able to get the job done and win the region.
It prepares you, This area doesn't sneak up on you by any means. It's something that we address and talk about yearly. There's a very, very thin line when only 2 teams go to the playoffs.
Right.
And, you could be sitting at the house. Unfortunately for us, we're preparing for a playoff. But, it's difficult. We knew it would be a war. Really and truly, our playoffs are 8 weeks long, So, we knew it going into it. We knew it was going to be difficult, but it's something that we've always embraced. We're confident in our preparation. Our guys just bring a tremendous amount of energy. They do a great job preparing during the course of the week. And maybe one of the biggest things is they really understand who they are. They're not trying to be something that they're not. They understand their strengths, their weaknesses. They know what needs to get done. And, they do a fantastic job just making sure that they execute that when it's time.
35-3 this year. You had a 22-game winning streak. Richard made mention about that series against Auburn. But let's talk about this team in particular. You did win a state championship a few years ago. You've probably seen and been a part of a lot of great teams, but this is some historic stuff, Coach. 35-3. If you're able to finish out, which I know you're focused on right now, a good state championship run, you're putting this in one of the greatest Chattahoochee Valley teams of all time. Heck, one of the greatest state of Alabama teams of all time. Has that ever crossed the back of your mind and the way in this year's went in that 22-game winning streak, or y'all just been taking it one game at a time? You don't care about anything else?
It's cliche, and really that's how we approach things. But from a coaching perspective, and even the players, it's hard not to let it enter your brain and think about it. So I think the neat thing about this club is, we've been much more talented, and our 22 team was more talented. We had some very high profile players. We won a state championship. Last year we lost in the state finals, but again, we were returning the 7A hitter of the year, another Division I commit. This team's just unique. There's just a tremendous amount of synergy between them. Everyone has really bought into their roles. They're very unselfish. 90% of the time they're still high school kids. But,
right.
And we preach to them. You can always carry one. We got a little thing. We can carry one guy, maybe 2 if we're lucky, but everyone's got to be on the same page. We got a really big roster of 27 kids. We've used 14 pitchers this season. We don't have a starter that's thrown a complete game. There's just a lot of different things about this club, but ultimately it comes down to their energy, their willingness to prepare, and just their competitiveness. I mean, they just really love to get after it and compete.
Yeah, I like that bulldog mentality. And Coach, this. You're not born with that. I mean, you are born with that. It can't just been ingrained into you. Some people just don't have it. It seems like every one of your players have it. And talk a little bit about the fact that your son's on the team, Coach. I mean, that's also got to be, come on, that's got to be pretty cool too. A historic team with your son being one of the best catchers in our area. Talk about how cool that's been.
It's been fun. Cooper's the glue, man. He's one of those guys that always has a smile on his face, has a ton of energy. He loves all the guys. The guys love him. Our pitchers love throwing to him. Maybe not the most talented guy on our team, but finds a way to get things done in big situations. And it's been fun. It's been fun to coach. Not an easy thing to do, I'll add.
No.
Anytime you're coaching your sons, it can be a little bit difficult at times. But I think I've matured and grown a little bit over the years after already coaching 2 of them, and or maybe I've just mellowed out. I'm too old, but Cooper is he's got the right mentality for it, and he's always done a great job of separating dad and coach. He'll call me coach on the field. He doesn't acknowledge me as his dad on the field, which makes it easy to separate.
That's awesome.
Well, Coach, you got a matchup against Prattville. It's a best of 3 this Friday. If you're able to advance, you'll play the winner of Baker and Define. Auburn is also on this side of the bracket. They are the other team in the area that made it into the playoffs. They play Enterprise. And then you got the number 2 team in this entire state of Alabama, Bob Jones, on the other side. But you're looking at the bracket and what is it going to take to prepare this team to just think about the matchup in front of them? And have you had an opportunity to scout Prattville and what type of team they are?
Yeah, we there's so much parity in 7A, in the state of Alabama this year. And there's a lot of great coaches, man. There's a lot of great coaches and great programs in the Birmingham and up north area, not just Bob Jones. Hewitt, Trustful, Hoover, and Thompson are absolutely loaded with talent. We've played Hoover, we've played Bob Jones, we've played Hewitt, and respectively. I mean, I know Hewitt has Ole Miss commit, 2 Tennessee commits, 2 UAB commits, and that's not even counting their JUCO guys. But then in the South, it's loaded as well. So Enterprise gave us all we wanted last year. We were really focusing in on just Prattville this week. Yesterday we gave them a couple days off. Thursday we finished against Smiths. We gave them Friday and Saturday off. We were spent mentally, and emotionally, really. We brought them in last night and got a good lift in, worked their bodies a little bit, had a good stretch session and let them hit a little bit. While the coaches were breaking down some film, we've got about 6 or 7 games on them. Today we actually put a plan into effect. They've got 3 really good arms. The record can be a little bit deceiving. When those 3 arms go, they've either won their game or they've given their club a chance to win. So they control the running game really well with their pitchers. They got good moves. They'll bunt when they have to. At any time with 3 or 4 guys out of their lineup, try to find ways to put pressure on you. And, they really just own the zone, man, pitching wise. They got the ability to, spin it and land it whenever they want. And, they take care of the baseball defensively. So, we expect it to be a war for sure.
Make sure to go out and support it. Central's got a fabulous park. We were able to broadcast the game against LaGrange. Coach, you don't even have to give an opinion on this. I'm just going to say this while you're on here. The Alabama sports writer, I respect a lot of them, but they came out with a poll and had Central number 4. I don't know what world they're living in or what sport they're watching. Heck, I don't keep up with all things 7A, but even I know not to do something like that. And then you look at it, Max Preps, you're ranked number 7 nationally, but somehow Bob Jones ahead of you, even though you're 35-3. But I know, Coach, none of that could be just motivation, or you probably don't even focus on stuff like that, do you?
I personally don't. And don't get me wrong, we were very proud, and it's certainly an honor to have that number 1 national ranking for that short period of time.
Right.
With those couple of national polls. But it really does. It's really good fuel for our kids. So our guys have played all year with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
And, not quite feeling as if they got the respect they deserved, especially early in the year, within our state. So, you had a couple of guys on my roster with little man syndrome. It makes things fun, man, So, they got some grit to them for sure.
No doubt. And I love that, Coach. And it seems like it comes from you. You're the head honcho. You establish the culture. By the way, we drop a ratings poll around here, Coach. We consider you and Smith Station, Russell County, and, of course, all the Columbus schools with Glenwood. And we make a poll, and Central's been number 1 all season long. So we've been true and honest.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great week. We'll be cheering for you, and hopefully we'll talk to you in the next few weeks as we get you prepared and yourself prepared for a state championship run.
Man, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you, sir. That is Hall of Famer and then future Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Famer, Coach A.J. Kehoe. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
And that is Coach A.J. Kehoe. Love that interview. Love having them on. We appreciate all the support. We cover all games, everything around this area. We do all things Central, Glenwood, Smith Station, Russell County, all 8 Muskogee County schools, Calvary, Brookstone, Pacelli. There's not a school in the Tri-City area we haven't either broadcasted, talked about, and been a part of. We've done over 100 baseball games close to, Richard. We did over 100 basketball games. We did over 40 football games. You might want to get on board now. Subscribe on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. We're going to take a break. When we come back from break, Rick Beach of Kudzu Sports, Richard. He's got a good interview with Tony Dimitri. Those Harris County Tigers started 1-8, and guess what? Ended finishing up second in the region, and they took 2 or 3 from the state runner-up in McIntosh to end the regular season. All that and more on the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show. We'll be back after this.
You're watching right now the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back.
Here are 3 great Chevrolet offers from Glenn Smith in Opelika. Check out the powerful full-size and fully loaded Chevrolet Silverado High Country, discounted up to $13,000 off. Or the roomy midsize 3-row SUV, the Chevy Traverse, discounted up to $8,000 off. And the perfect size Chevy Equinox, up to $7,500 off. No payments until summertime. Over 300 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. Get ready to smile.
23 guys on the roster. There's 8 coaches, and it starts from the lower levels and then works its way up. And I think that right there has kind of been something that's kind of taken off like dominoes because the younger kids won. And I think they started pushing each other a little bit. And then we preached it too, and I.
All right, everyone. Sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties. Richard, it's okay. We're learning StreamYard. This is the first time that we turn me down just a little bit, Richard. I'm getting your feedback from your computer right now. All right, everyone. Sorry about that. So we apologize. So what we're going to do is we got it fixed. It's okay. Everybody that's tuning in, that you want to watch the Tony Dimitri interview, Richard, we're going to play that right now. So bear with us one more time. I promise you, it's going to be worth watching. Rick Beach of Kudzu Sports and, of course, Georgia Alabama Sports Live with head coach Tony Dimitri from Harris County. Richard, take it away.
Hey, Thrift, I'm in here with Coach Dimitri, Harris County Baseball. Got a big playoff game tomorrow. Super excited about it. 5:30 first pitch, Lucas Grove rematch of last year's game. Coach, congratulations on coming second in the region after the start of the season. But just what can you say to encapsulate the whole season on how you're feeling?
It's we preach all the time. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I think that's kind of been the story of our season. It started slow, and then obviously got rolling late.
Yeah, I mean, starting slow is an understatement for this. A 7-game losing streak, obviously, at the start of the year. A lot of people made a lot of noise about it. It was big to do around here about, is Harris County, how many games they're going to win. They're saying they're just going to make the playoffs because everybody makes the playoffs but one team, and we know that team wasn't going to make it. But to take from what they're saying, well, Harris County just going to be let in on Petey. Coming in second in what ends up being every year in, year out a tough region. What's that say about your team as far as how they finish the year compared to how they started?
So, we and you've talked about this plenty of times. There's 23 guys on this roster. There's 8 coaches, and it starts from the lower levels and it works its way up. And I think that right there has kind of been something that's kind of taken off like dominoes because the younger kids won. And I think they started pushing each other a little bit. And then, we preached it too, and I said it a minute ago. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. It's don't worry about the wins and losses because in playoff baseball time, that's the only thing that matters in the game.
Right, and we said this in the preseason. We said it during the 7-game losing streak that we always felt good about our chances in a 3-game series because of this pitching staff. And it starts, you got Cantrell, Fisher Cantrell, Andrew Malstaff, and Brendan Horton. That feeling still the same with you saying, hey, it don't matter who we go against. We got 3 of the best in the state because all 3 signed college scholarships. So how are you feeling going in this series with them 3?
Like we do with every series. I think McIntosh obviously was really good. Northgate was really good. Northside, when we played competitive with them early. With those 3 guys, and not to mention you got McLemore who's sitting there, and then you can throw up Jacob Eber and some of the younger kids that came in throughout the season. Our pitching staff is what it is. We have some guys that do a lot for us, but the biggest key is throwing strikes. Throwing strikes.
And they pound the strikes. You mentioned McLemore Cole filled in for Fisher when he got hurt, admirably winning big series, having a big role in some of them games. They coming in relief. We saw him in the game 1 of that McIntosh that clinched the 2 seed, gave you a chance to win region. You end up taking 2 or 3 from a McIntosh team that came in second in state, was undefeated in region play. Then y'all take 2 out of 3, and it kind of sets up where people can say, look, Harris County don't need to be slept on anymore. They may have struggled at the start of the year, but it's a different monster now.
Yeah, and we said it in our first couple broadcasts. It's new coaches, new philosophies, new ideas, new things, and it just took a little bit longer for the kids to realize that. And when they did, you see the outcome on the field.
Right, now let's flip over to the offense. I think y'all really found that identity. We noticed that the first win, that Russell County game, you could really see the speed was going to be a factor. What can you say about the aggressiveness they've taken on the base pass and how that's kind of went throughout the season and how it become what it was?
I think they got comfortable. I think Ashton Herring got comfortable in what his role was and his purpose was. And even Pierce Profit, those two guys at the top, it's just being comfortable with what they're doing, not trying to do too much, playing their role in the game. Yeah. And that is what they bring. They bring speed to the game.
Right, and Ashton Herring, you mentioned that. Russell County was the first time we kind of, on the game that we broadcast, saw him get multiple steals. I think going from first to third is kind of underappreciated. And you don't see it on TV with the older guys, but in high school ball, this is what Major League used to be in like the 80s is what I tell people. Right. And it's got to be in the small ball, seeing the speed, and it just kind of was contagious. Now other people want to get stolen bases, other people want to go first to third, stretch things out, and it really opened up the offense. Now pitchers are worried about your base runners. They're going to slide steps that they're not comfortable doing, and then the power come across where, for Harris County, it wasn't the home run ball, but you started seeing a lot of balls get out in the gap, a lot of balls that were out there, and I really think it's because of pressure that y'all were putting on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree to some degree with that too. It's just, if you look at the style game we played multiple different styles throughout the season. There's been games where we've had to bunt and hit backside and move runners. There's games where we have stolen a lot of bases. There's games where we've actually, like you said, banged balls off the wall and hit a few home runs. I think it depends on kind of who we're playing a little bit too. We're capable of doing all of those things. But yeah, kids learning the philosophy and just doing what they're asked. And that's one of the biggest things. And it's 1 through 9, and we've played all 23 throughout one time in the season. So.
Yeah, and when you talk, games like the McIntosh game, that first game, the thrill and the walk-off win, right. When you look early in the game, you score runs banging the ball off the wall. But in the late innings, you're getting infield singles, bunts, right. You're making a wild pitch, scores and run. And so you can kind of see when you put all those together, you can beat anybody, and especially when you cap it off with a starting pitcher like Andrew.
Yeah, it keeps us in the game. And like we said, that's what the pitching staff does. They keep us in the game as long as we're playing clean baseball on the defensive side. And they're letting us have a chance at the end. And you said it. Early in that McIntosh series, we hit balls off the wall. We hit them deep, and they made some plays, and we scored a few runs too. But late in that game, TJ Frank laid down a drag play that was huge to move the runners and go bases loaded there. Like I said, it depends on the style of the game and the timing.
Now, Lucas Grove coming in, we know last year they ended Harris County season. Has the players mentioned any of that to you about excited about trying to get a rematch with them?
Sort of. I mean, it's a different team. We're a different team than last year. We both graduated a bunch of people, different coaches on our end. So like I said, it's a little bit, and we've kind of stayed with them saying don't preach as much about what happened in the past. Let's work about what we're doing in the future. And so no, I mean, off and on. Locust Grove is a great team. We know they're going to be well coached. We know they're going to be able to play really good defense and swing the bat. We've just got to play hard.
Absolutely. So the 5:30 start time tomorrow, first pitch for the Harris County game. Exciting time. Anytime you get home playoff game, it's exciting. It's a testament to this team. Like we mentioned before, you can't say it enough about 7 in a row, 80 your first 10, you drop, and you're thinking if we get to region play, we don't stand a chance. Then you lose the first 2 of region play to Northside. So it's been an uphill battle, and it's definitely your first year you found a way to do it the hard way. But your boys have really rallied together, and the way they finished region play was just fantastic. It's exciting for the playoffs coming up, and I can't say enough. Now, we mentioned, anybody that watched the shows for the preseason game of Brookstone, then a couple we did throughout the season, we would mention some of the younger guys. Now, that McIntosh game, we saw Luke Malcolm come off the bench, and also against LaGrange, she played a role in that 1-0 win. What can you say about Luke that's really stuck out to you?
Luke's a spark plug. Luke is one that he pinch hit in the McIntosh game for Mills. He hit a ball up the middle. It was a tough play, and I thought he would have beat it out. I don't know how it was scored, but he got on, and then we tried to bunt the next guy. He gets hit, and now we're in first and second. And then I want to say, I don't remember what happened after that. They may have walked another guy or whatever the case may be. We loaded the bases, and then he's on third. And with a freshman being on third, he read a great ball that was blocked that just kicked away
you don't get credit for the good things you do. If you take a ball and hit it to the right side with a runner on second, it's not a stat for them, right? But you better believe when you walk off the field, everybody in the dugout is going to come shake your hand because you just did a great job. And I can't think of another sport that don't even recognize for anything. Maybe in football it's like for blocking, but in baseball it's a lot harder to shoot the ball to the right side because everybody knows you're trying to do it. And your team has done that really well, and I just can't say enough about how they've rallied up, how you got them rallied up, and how the senior class and these upperclassmen have really, they hadn't gotten to play as much as some seniors would have played. And I think early in the year we saw what caused that. And then now that they've kind of got a little bit of swag to them with it,
Well, everybody early
showing
was,
out.
and you said it, everybody early was waiting to be that person. Like they wanted to be the person. They were trying too hard. They were doing all the stuff that was not in their ability level at the time. And obviously now they went farther on that and pushed a little bit harder because they understand what their responsibility is. They understand what everybody's responsibility is. And they know that the younger kids are just as responsible as they are. So, no, the senior class has been huge. Obviously, the weather's warmed up. It's not as cold. Guys get hot and cold. We talked about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we know here especially it does get, when the season's going like it was early on, and then you get like you mentioned, the weather, it's cold weather. Losing's no fun, but it's really not fun when the wind's gusting in, it's freezing your butt off out here. Now the weather heats up, your team's heating up. The best time to get hot is in the playoffs. Pitching's on fire. You're scoring runs. You're having, boys are having fun. So it's 5:30 tomorrow. Coach, you want to say anything about people who come pack out the stadium?
Yeah, let's try to get as many people here as we can. I'd like to see a record crowd. I'd like to see people standing room only because that's what the kids are going to need. They're excited to play at home. They're excited to play for Harris County. They're excited to see if we can advance. And I think we need a hometown crowd behind it.
Yeah, looking at, I get the advantage of being able to look ahead where y'all got to push one at a time. But people, if you come out, the bracket sets up nice for Harris County. I feel confident about it. So if you get a chance, let's come out tomorrow. Let's pack it out. It's not broadcast by anybody. Thanks to GHSA rules, we can't broadcast it. So hey, come out to Hamilton. Let's pack it out at 5:30. Then the next game will be right after that. Then hopefully we won't have to come out here Wednesday. I'd like to just be able to wrap this puppy up tomorrow. But Thrift, that's all we got with Coach Dimitri. I'm Rick Beach. Back to you, Thrift.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Glenn Smith, GMC, and Opelika invite you to discover extraordinary deals like this powerful all-new GMC Sierra 1500 Pro, now up to $12,500 off. Purchase the roomy GMC Terrain SLT, discounted up to $8,750 off. And the GMC Acadia with 3-row seating, discounted up to $6,000 off. Enjoy no payments till summertime at Glenn Smith GMC. Over 300 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way. Get ready to smile.
That interview made me smile. If you want to take that off, and thank you so much, Richard. I know the sound wasn't great. The quality was good. I'm actually watching right on my phone. It just StreamYard did not want us to be great, Richard. And
no, they didn't.
They didn't want us to be great, but it's okay because guess what, Richard? As soon as we get done here, I'm going to upload it to Facebook, and you can go back and watch it there. So we're okay.
And also, Thrift, the audio of that interview will be on Apple Podcast as I upload an audio version of this show, which you can find on Apple Podcasts.
Thank you for doing that. And where can they subscribe on Apple Podcasts? Any other place that we have it uploaded, Richard?
Yeah, you can subscribe to our podcast. Just type in Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Just type it in and subscribe to our podcast. You might be driving and you want to just get an audio version of the show. Well, that's the perfect way to do it. And that interview that Rick Beach did with Coach Dimitri was fantastic. You'll have a more quality audio version of it in the audio version of the podcast.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you to Rick Beach and Tony Dimitri. Like I said, we will have that uploaded. Coach Dimitri has just done an excellent job, man. Started the season 1-8, and they have just been on a tear. And that is what Rick was talking about. Credit to him, his staff, and he's establishing a culture there. This guy is a winner wherever he's been, Russell County, Jordan. The guy knows baseball, and big believer in him and big believer in Harris County, and we appreciate him, everyone else, including Mindy Johnson, the athletic director, for allowing us to be part of the season. We did over 9 Harris County baseball games this year, so glad that we were able to do that, and we got that McIntosh win for game number 1. We were planning on having Chad Mathis. Richard, is he available?
I did reach out to him. He might be at practice, but
Yeah.
he said if he could find time that he would try to get on.
Well, we'd love to have him on if he could have got on. I don't think they're practicing at 8:43 at night, Richard. Who knows? I know you're trying to be nice.
Oh, they got a big game against Academy of Richmond County. I mean, they're hosting a playoff game, a doubleheader tomorrow. Hopefully, they don't have to play on Wednesday. We just got a bunch of high school teams. You know, Shaw is taking on Troup County. I mean, Hardaway's on the road against Stars Mill. Jordan is on the road against Toombs County. I mean, all these teams in this area are in the playoffs this week.
Well, we'll go ahead and get into NBA playoffs. By the way, thank you to AJ Kehoe and Tom Callahan for joining us. All right, Richard, let's go ahead and get it to NBA playoff time. Really going to do predictions, and then we're going to get out of here. And Wednesday show, we got our baseball ratings. We're talking with Tim Fanning of Glenwood, C. Smith of Calvary. Next week, we're going to have on Adam Thomas of Pacelli and Greg Mathis of Brookstone. So we're going to have all these guys on as they get ready for their upcoming playoffs. We're cheering for Shaw, cheering for Hardaway, cheering for Jordan, all the teams that are in it this year. And cheering for the River Dragons, too. By the way, I called the the Columbus Lions second home game, and they won that 75-20, Richard. It is men amongst boys. It's really a disservice. A lot of these teams don't have the athletes to keep up with the Columbus. And right now, no one can guard their receivers, to their defensive line is unblockable, to Marcus Brooks has got all day to throw. He's been barely giving up five sacks all season. He has 23 touchdowns in 3 games, threw 10 of them last Thursday. They just dominate. Their defense is one of the best defenses I've seen in arena football. Kyle Griswold, DeAndre Brown, the linebackers are good. I mean, they are just shut down all the way around. And Damian Daniels, the Nighthawk, just elite of elite. Next home game's May 25th. I'll be there for that. Richard, you'll also be on the call with me. Looking forward to it. But Lions, not just the River Dragons, the Lions, undefeated and the favorite by far. And I know Corpus Christi's undefeated. I know that's probably going to be the team they face. But I think it's Lions, the big bully on the block, and everybody else.
There's no question about it. Marcus Brooks is just having just a bunch of seconds of time to throw the football. I mean, he's got so much time in the pocket. He can pick and choose which receivers to throw the football to, whether it's Jarmon Fortson or Demisio Ewing. I mean, they have players that have not only NAL experience. I mean, Jarmon Fortson has been like a Columbus Lion. It seems like, well, let's just say he was on the team when the Nighthawk, Damian Daniels, was a player for the Columbus Lions. And I think that's very important that Coach Daniels has played with several of these players. And not too long ago, he was a player himself. He was actually playing at a high level 2 years ago.
Up right now, Richard.
Yes, he can. I do think he can. I saw him. We were on the broadcast 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Saw him come out of retirement. You know, his jersey is retired up in the rafters. And then in a road game against the Carolina Cobras, he got a pick six, took it to the house. That was the momentum that gave Columbus the win, and it catapulted them into the 3 seed because that was a very tough year. They had a carousel of quarterbacks. They were going through Danny Southwick, Darren Daniels. They had Darren Daniel, rather, the former Phoenix City Central Red Devil. Mason Espinoza. And then Daniel Smith. I mean, they went through 4 quarterbacks. I think the big success for the Columbus Lions is the stability at quarterback. You have Marcus Brooks, who has been there for 2 years, and he hasn't missed a start, and he has been fantastic.
He has been. I'm looking forward to calling those games. And like I said, the last one is against Corpus Christi. Look forward to that. June 14th, Richard, circle it. That's going to be a huge one. All right, let's talk NBA playoff predictions. On Wednesday, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving you my my NFL draft, mock draft. I'm not going to be Mel Kiper. Ta. I'm not going to do it. That is just not me. I can't, Richard. God, I can't. I'm so sick. There's so many mock drafts. I am banning and right now protesting any mock drafts. But we're going to have a mock of who cares, but we just want to hear it. Mock draft. Richard's going to give us his top 5 picks because I'm not, and I'm just going to sit there and make fun of him. That's because I can't stand it. And then hopefully next week we can actually give some real analysis after the draft happens. But in the end, you have no idea who's going to pan out, who's going to be good, who's going to be a bust. But the mock drafts kill me. And the fact that Todd, I can't think of his last
name.
Todd McMay, that's what I used to call him, and Mel Kiper. Jeez, man, they've made a living off of just bloviating, hot air, talking about these mock drafts. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. All right, NBA predictions. I needed to see one game, and I'm not going to be one of those that just, hey, look at this. This team's winning it all this year. I think the favorites are Boston and Denver. What I saw from Denver against a really good LeBron James game, especially in that first half, the fact, and I think Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith, they all said this at halftime. The Lakers were up like 14 at one point. They ended up going up at the half by 3. But it seemed like the way they were playing, they should have been up by 20. And they were up only 3 points because the best player in the world is just that dominant. If they stay healthy, I just don't see any team beating them. And I think Boston right now, if Porzingis is hitting step-back jacks, are you kidding me? And then you got Derek White, one of the best on-ball defenders, hitting all his shots. Of course, Tatum and Brown going to do their thing. They're the deepest team. Pritchard hitting threes, Hauser hitting threes. They keep shooting like that. It's Boston-Denver collision course. But I do want to talk about some of the other teams that I think could, have a good playoff. Richard, I'll let you go first, and then I'll go. Those are the favorites, but give me some teams that you realistically think can win an NBA championship.
The Clippers. They were playing without Kawhi Leonard, and they dismantled the Dallas Mavericks.
Richard, he may not come back. You know that. It's Kawhi. You can't trust him.
No, and I don't count on Kawhi, but they are deep. They got James Harden playing well, Russell Westbrook off the bench, Terrence Mann, Zubac is a very good underrated center. I really like what the Clippers have done. They got a head coach in Tyronn Lue who's won a championship with Cleveland in 2016. I would like to see P.J. Tucker because, P.J. Tucker's been in this league forever. It's a safe bet. If your name is P.J., you are a scrappy NBA player. You are a dog. We saw it with P.J. Brown with the Boston Celtics in 2008. How about P.J. Washington for Dallas? P.J. Tucker is a dog, and he needs to get some minutes because that's the type of player that you want on your team. A player that is going to do all the dirty work, doesn't care about stats. They just want to just be an enforcer, get in your face, and get the little loose balls, diving for balls, rebounds, block shots, and really, I think that the Clippers really could use P.J. Tucker, even though he's almost pushing 40. He's up there in age.
He is up there in age, and I can't believe out of all names you picked out of there, you picked P.J. Tucker. Westbrook is a fan favorite, and the guy just brings so much energy. If James Harden plays like that, good luck if Kawhi does come back and they're healthy. I like the Clippers, too. I think they made a statement. I think the Timberwolves made a statement because I think Anthony Edwards is the most unguardable player there is in the NBA, and their defense led by Nasri, Rudy Gobert, and the way Karl Anthony Towns has played.
Yeah,
I like this Timberwolves team a lot. They just bullied and manhandled and just – took them to the back of the shed and just gave them an old-fashioned butt whooping, 25 points. They beat the Suns, and I actually picked the Suns when I was talking with people. I thought the Suns would win. Right now, if you're asking me Eastern Conference and Western Conference, Eastern Conference, I'm going to go Celtics-Knicks. Even without Randall, I think this Knicks team is really good. They play really well together. Josh Hart, if he can continue shooting and plays half of the way Jimmy Butler. He's not going to be Jimmy Butler last year. I'm not saying that. But he reminds me a lot of Jimmy Butler because he's a streaky player who plays really hard all the time, great defense, and he's got a dog mentality, that heart. If Josh Hart plays half of what Jimmy did last year, put up 15 points a game with OG, with Mitchell Robinson, who just, I thought, did a really good job on Embiid, even though Embiid had a lot of points. Embiid's playing with half a leg, and now you're hearing Maxey may be out. I know they're playing right now. I got Knicks Celtics, and I can't wait for Madison Square Garden and TD Garden going against each other. That's going to be a lot of fun. I know Dame time, 35, but I'm not. It's still another week or so from getting Giannis back. I do think they beat the Pacers, but I'm still going to go Knicks over this Bucks team. And on the Western side, maybe you're right, Richard. Maybe it is Clippers, because if the Clippers win, I think they beat either one of the Pelicans or Thunder. Thunder just too young. That was a great game last night. Just don't think either one of those teams are ready, even with Zion, if he was able to come back. And they would have to play one of those teams. I think they win, so I think they make it. And Denver would probably have to play Minnesota. I think Denver, Clippers, if Dallas doesn't get hot. But Denver, Clippers, Boston, New York, and still going Boston, Denver for the championship. I really am. After watching those, are those not the best two teams? Who would you put your money on? Would you put it on Orlando or Cleveland? Are you kidding me?
No.
Milwaukee? Is it the Knicks? If Philly's healthy and Embiid, which I don't think he will be, I don't think he can last 4 rounds, Richard. If they're fully healthy, I'd pick the 76ers to even beat the Celtics. I just don't think they got a healthy roster, and I don't think Embiid can last that long.
You're right, Thrift. And after the Knicks beating the 76ers in Game 1, one thing about Game 1s, you don't want to take too much away from it because teams always make adjustments. I actually think that Coach Spoelstra and the Heat, actually, they were down by 30. They cut it to 13. If they would have had Jimmy Butler, maybe that game's a little bit closer. You know that Coach Eric Spoelstra is going to make adjustments in Game 2, but I think that's an absolute mismatch. This Boston team looks a lot different from the teams from the past. No more Marcus Smart, no more Robert Williams, no more Grant Williams, but they got a new identity. And you're right, Kristaps Porzingis is just having a fantastic series. And I actually think Boston is the team that has the most pressure to win their 18th championship. Because if Jason Tatum is the superstar that everybody says he is going to be, he's going to have to carry the Celtics in the fourth quarter and take over games.
If you're asking me who I'm cheering for, Richard, it dang sure ain't Boston. I promise you that. I can't stand their fan base, and I think they are the worst fan base to ever be around. 76ers are beating the Knicks by 4, by the way, at halftime.
At halftime, yep.
If you're asking me what I'd like to see, I'd probably like to see Lakers Celtics and the Lakers beating the Celtics. LeBron getting a championship. That'd be pretty funny. Bill Simmons would croak in his grave. But I think we're going to get Nuggets Celtics. And I still think the favorite's the Nuggets. I don't think it's the Celtics because in the end, Porzingis, Horford, I don't think they got bodies that can stop at Nikola Jokic. The only team I think that could is Minnesota, and they'll play them in the second round.
I do want to give a shout-out to a local guy that plays for the Denver Nuggets. He's got a sign just outside of Greenville, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. How big was he in that game against the Lakers, getting big-time threes? And I think that the X factor is that the Denver Nuggets are deep. Aaron Gordon plays defense. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope plays defense. But it's the duo of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray that can create their own shot. They can get any shot they want. I mean, the Lakers, they have to play perfect in order to beat Denver. And we're talking D'Angelo Russell has got to score for 30. LeBron and AD could be fantastic, but if Rui Hachimura or Austin Reeves or D'Angelo Russell are not even up to the expectations what they're supposed to be, the Lakers are in trouble because this is an absolute mismatch that the Nuggets have against the Lakers. This is definitely not the matchup the Lakers wanted. I know they'd rather play the Thunder in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're so too. But if you're going to catch a team like Denver early, it's now. By the way, Embiid's got 18 and 10. They're up 55-51. And Josh Hart has 19 points and 9 rebounds. I'm telling you, I'm just getting this vibe with Josh Hart. He's going to go on this, like, unbelievable run that's not sustainable, and it's going to make people overpay and think that this is what he's going to be, and he's not. But we always have that one guy that makes that playoff run. Last year was Jimmy. I'm telling you, I think Josh Hart could be that guy in the Eastern Conference this year. If Embiid's able to blast, I think the 76ers can beat the Knicks in 7. The problem is I don't think his knee can hold up. Beating then the next series would be Giannis in Milwaukee, then taking on an historic Boston team, and then having to go against Jokic. No, I don't think Philly has that in him. I do think they can win a round. I don't think he has that injury, and that knee was looking pretty grotesque in that last game. But heck, what do I know? He's 18-10 already, and they've barely played a minute and a half in the second half. So he's on his way for a 30-20 game. So obviously, he doesn't care what I think or what you think. And again, I think this team, it's got Hield, it's got Martin, Mamba, Payne, Batum. That's just their bench with Oubre, Maxey, Lowry, who's hitting shots. Last game, he has 0 so far. And then Tobias Harris. I like Philly a lot. Again, I just worry about the injury to Joel Embiid. NBA Finals, is it Boston, Denver for you?
It is Boston, Denver.
Yeah, I'm going Boston, Denver, too.
I don't trust the Clippers. I just don't think the Clippers as an organization, I just don't think that their culture would allow them to go to the NBA Finals. Plus, Lakers fans would just go absolutely nuts.
Zubac is someone that could body and foul, and they do have bodies on that Clippers team to put in front of Jokic. The wings with Kawhi, PG, James Harden, those are mismatches against Denver. Westbrook off the bench.
Terrence Mann.
I like him over Reggie Jackson. Terrence Mann.
He's the X factor.
We saw in that like a 27-game stretch when they went like 25-5, 22-5. They were the best team in the NBA, and Kawhi was playing great. If he's healthy, and this Clippers team can finally get over their cursed Donald Sterling brouhaha that they have in voodoo surrounding them, yes, I think the Clippers with this roster. And it'd be nice to see maybe a Clippers Celtics. Who knows? NBA Finals. I love NBA playoffs. Can't wait. Dream matchup would be Lakers Celtics for the NBA. Talk about ratings. I don't think people care about Denver.
How about Knicks Clippers? That would get some good ratings.
I would get great ratings. And Lakers Celtics, obviously, because LeBron, then Lakers, Celtics, the historic season. Come on, Richard. I don't think anyone's beaten that in ratings. But I think behind them would be Knicks Clippers. I think that'd be pretty good. Clippers Celtics would be decent. We want to say thank you to all our guests, Richard. Tom Callahan, MVP, thank you so much. Coach AJ Kehoe of Central, thank you so much. Tony Dimitri, thank you for sitting down with with Rick Beach. Chad Mathis, I know we were trying to have you on, but we're supporting this team as they take on Richmond, Academy of Richmond tomorrow. We're cheering for the Blue Devils to make a run, maybe all the way to the semifinals. Who knows? Wednesday, we're going to have Steve Smith and Tim Fanning on. We're doing a high school baseball ratings, and our last one of the regular season, last one before the end of the playoffs. And nobody cares mock draft from Richard Holdridge. He's giving it, baby, because I know he's got one, and because that is happening on Thursday. Tomorrow, Brookstone Calvary. Richard, you're going to be there for that one. Number 1 in the GIAA, or number 2, I think. First Presbyterian may be number 1. Either way, they're number 1 or number 2, taking on number 1 Calvary. And I know both of them will love nothing more than the other team licking their wounds heading into the playoffs and them riding high. And right now, Calvary got off to a slow start. They've beaten Lakeside, Troup County, Northside, and if they beat Brookstone, that's an incredible 4-game stretch to take them into the playoffs. And I can't wait to talk to Steve Smith either, because the reigning 5-time defending state champion who won every game last year in the playoffs, all 6 by 15 runs or more, is ranked number 2 in the state because Max Prep said so. This is why you can't trust a computer, because nobody in their right mind is putting the Kings Academy, I don't care if they're 21-2 or not, ahead of Calvary, except for Max Preps. And I promise you, If you don't think C. Smith's using that for motivation, you don't know C. Smith like we do. Do they, Richard?
Not at all. Coach Smith's going to have them ready. I know that they play Johnson Ferry Christian Academy in the first round. We will have those games this Friday, but they got to wrap up the regular season against Brookstone. Which, by the way, Brookstone still got to play Heritage on Wednesday. Their season's not done yet. They got 2 more regular season games. But I believe the way that I saw Calvary come back against Northside and hit 5 home runs, and Bailey Thorne has been one of the top players in the entire state of Georgia. He's got 11 home runs now. They're firing on all cylinders. I think that Calvary is ready to go. And even if that game is up in Woodstock, Georgia, against the Keens Academy, I believe Calvary are going to win both those games. It doesn't matter. They could be on the road. They could be at Calvary. They have got to be the favorite to win their 6th GAPS championship.
Glenwood beat Terrell Academy, who is ranked, I think, top 3 in 3A or 2A of the GIAA. And I think
it's a good win.
Yeah, I think it's 3A. Yes, they are in 3-way, and it's big win. They won 3-2 today. We weren't able to be there because it's such an early time, but that's a great win to end the regular season. Glenwood clicking on all cylinders. They got a playoff game this Thursday, Richard. We will be there for that. Doubleheader for Calvary. We expect both those teams to win both those games and head into the semifinals next week. Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show saying thank you so much. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Have a great rest of your night. We will see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Brookstone Calvary, and then again on Wednesday for the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.